Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Prince's Friend, and we're back with our fourth album review for the Prince discography. I want to take a second just to say thank you to everybody who came out yesterday in support of the kind of different direction that the channel's taking, and I want to definitely point everybody to the Patreon that I will put a link to in the comments. Alright, now let's go ahead and get into his fourth album, which was Controversy. Funny enough, it's actually one of his more controversial ones. This was a period when he was like extra prolific, because not only was he writing this album, but he was touring and doing the Dirty Mind tour, and he also launched The Time during this period under the pseudonym Jamie Starr, and kind of started bringing them into the mix. So lots of really good stuff going on at that particular time. This album always kind of struck me as weird. It's got some great tracks on it, but they kind of feel disjointed a little bit. It kind of feels like it's an extension of Dirty Mind, kind of what happens when you release Dirty Mind. Well, controversy happens, you know? The headlines on the album cover kind of set the tone, and he obviously sings about some of the reception that his new direction has gotten in some of the songs. Obviously, most notable is Controversy. This album focuses less on sex than Dirty Mind did, which isn't a high bar to reach because that entire album was basically sex. But it does sprinkle some inside some of the messages that Prince is kind of pushing forward. Blender magazine's Keith Harris, at the time of the release, said that Controversy is Prince's first attempt to get you to love him for his mind, not just his body. And I think that's pretty accurate. So the first track on the album, and the first single for the album, was Controversy, the title track. It opens up in a kind of similar sound to Dirty Mind's title track, again linking them, in my mind, musically. So musically, it's pretty much the quintessential Minnesota sound here. Lyrically, it's the depiction of the coverage he'd received over the last few years. From the tone of the song, it's almost like he wasn't expecting the level of discourse over his sexuality and his religion and all that stuff from the public. But we know that it was kind of a concerted effort at this point. He even recites the Lord's Prayer at the end, kind of in a, you can say whatever you want about me, and I'm still going to praise God anyway, which, you know, it's pretty loyal to himself. And it's always kind of a message that he's always kind of pushed forward, is that sex and God are not separate things. They can be together, and I think that the first track kind of seals the deal on that. This track was one of the best on the album, quite frankly. It also is a single, which worked out well for Prince at the time. I feel like the fast-thumping beat at the start of the song, mixed with Prince's falsetto and the screams in the song, I think it just makes it kind of the perfect track for that era of his music. The title makes it sound like it's going to be just about sex, and then of course it is about sex. But it covers actually a lot of things. It calls for a revolution, a world without segregation, absolute freedom of mind and body. If only the youth would get off of the TV and change the world. And tourists, for some reason, they're the worst thing ever. Never really got that. But a lot of people think Prince got heady, like in his later years. But I think that this track is honestly proof that it's been there all along. Alright, so the third track is Do Me Baby. Prince pretty much hit one out of the park. He started the album off and he had some heavy tracks, and he settles in now for like a seductive favorite. And when I say favorite, I mean like people lose their minds when this song comes on. Good for Prince, though, is that this isn't one of the longing songs where he never gets the girl, which is kind of what a lot of his ballads and stuff have been to this point. They've always been, you know, still waiting and all this, like, it's always like, oh, I really wish that I had you. But this one, he definitely got her, and the song actually features the sounds of what happens when she does decide to do him. So yes, when Prince released this song, it didn't really hit the charts. I don't know why, but it hit #1 when Melissa Morgan covered it on her album a few years later. And I'm going to put a link in the comments to that track so you can listen to it and you tell me which one is better. I'm a little biased myself. I love the Prince version, but you give it a listen yourself. So Private Joy. Private Joy is actually my second favorite song on the album. It's a song about Prince having a secret lover, although the joy, nobody knows if it's a person or, a man or a woman. It could be a sex toy. It could be just about anything. Nobody really knows, but he knows, and he's not letting anyone know. It's actually pretty fitting for an album all about controversy, because it's like a lot of people are asking, like, who's the song about? And, you know, we want to know, like, who don't we know about that's in your life? Like, we want to know more. The public and the media just trying to pierce more and deeper. They want to know more and more about this enigmatic man. So well played, Prince. I think it honestly was the point behind it all. And I'm also kind of a fan of the machine gun drum sounds that get kind of mixed in with the simple clapping beat. It's actually really cool. Like it's just there. It's pretty nice. The song was later offered to and covered by LaToya Jackson, and I'll put a link to that one. Warner Brothers got into the habit of offering Prince's songs that didn't have a huge audience to some female singers on the label, which they could obviously match the falsetto, and it was really good for their voice. And LaToya Jackson actually covered it, and she said that it was her favorite song to do on her album, but her dad was her manager at the time, so the idea of singing a song about a secret lover, it didn't work a lot. So it was her favorite, but it didn't get a lot of play because of her manager. Alright, so Ronnie Talks to Russia is the next track, and it's Private Joy kind of deconstructs at the end and enters into the next track. It's a really quick song, actually, and the song screams of like panic. There's a pretty good guitar solo in the middle, but it's hard to take it too seriously as an actual political song. It's more a desperate plea to the nation's leaders to make a deal before the world is destroyed. So I wonder if it's honestly just a little bit too sporadic and maybe a little bit too punk to be taken seriously. But like I said, it's kind of here and then gone like pretty quickly before you get into the next track. So not only was this a fan favorite on the album, but it's one of the early songs that Prince still kind of pulled out of his bag, even by the end, and when he was still doing concerts and stuff, he'd still do Let's Work. The work is dancing on the dance floor and working in the bed as well, of course. It's a tight track and has some comparisons to Sexy Dancer, which made it a quick favorite in the clubs too, getting him to #1 in the US dance charts with Let's Work, so that's pretty cool. When it was released as a single, Gotta Stop Messin' Around was the B-side, which was actually the first non-album B-side of anyone that was released. So we'll be talking about that song when we get to the greatest hits. So, you know, no jumping ahead. But that's just kind of something of note, is that Gotta Stop Messing Around was on there, which I actually like Gotta Stop Messing Around a little bit more than Let's Work myself, but, you know, that's all personal preference. Any Christian. This was one of those weird kind of controversial songs. It sounds like it's a story of a girl who's looking for fame who turned into a murderer when she couldn't. I mean, that's the top layer. For those who know Prince's hidden messages, or not so hidden messages, since one of the lyrics is literally everybody say gun control. I mean, but a lot of people didn't get that this whole song was about gun control and not just that one lyric. Anti-Christian equals Antichrist. The need to kill, and then guns make it that much easier for those kind of people to fulfill their mission. Again, Prince was making a political statement on this album in one of the most disjointed tracks that he's ever made. I don't think there's any other track that is this odd in its makeup. I think it is an interesting choice that he didn't actually sing this song, but instead he like spoke it, kind of overlayered his voice, but he almost sounded like he was a TV news anchor, which I think was pretty cool, actually, and the first track that he had done something like that on. The last track seems like a reminder, kind of. We talked about a lot of things on this album, but remember that sex is the thing that unites us all. Speaking of which, how about some mutual masturbation in the back of a movie theater? Hey, we have all this controversy and politics and everything, but don't forget, sex, sex, sex. This is also the first track where he started to use the symbols in the song title, so it's Jack U off with just the letter U, and obviously we see a lot more of that as we go along. I think the track itself is, you know, pretty good, not his strongest, but again, I think that a lot of this whole album kind of coming together, and it kind of felt oddly put together. I think it also comes from the fact that he was doing so many things at one time and not really focusing on it. It could have also been, and this is my speculation, that he was building up a lot of his better tracks to be released on the next album, 1999, which has, you know, basically topples this one. So in conclusion, doing this breakdown for you folks makes me kind of appreciate this album's place in Prince's legacy a little bit more. It's still not my favorite of his albums, but it holds a strong place between Dirty Mind and 1999, which is the next album. It's not an album that I return to often, just because, you know, it's got a couple of tracks that I really like on it, but as a whole, I think that it just didn't, I think it didn't gel well. It still felt like a stepping stone to greater works, which I think is still pretty darn good. But how did you feel about Controversy? Which one was your favorite song? Do I just have it completely wrong on this album and it's actually amazing? Please tell me about it and share with me in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Please visit our Patreon, and may you live to see the dawn.